Hi, I'm Olivia. I am the Family and Consumer Science Extension Agent for Currituck and Camden counties, and I thank you guys for joining us today on live from Currituck Extension. I'm just going to give it one more minute for everybody to get in and for me to wash my hands. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Hi, I'm Olivia. I am the Family and Consumer Science Extension Agent from Currituck and Camden counties. If you didn't hear that already, as the Family and Consumer Science Extension Agent, I provide information on health, wellness, food and nutrition, food safety, and food preservation today, as I talk to you guys about how to make freezer jam that you can that's great to do with your kids while everybody's home. So as I get started on that, I have a few reminders before we go anywhere. First, if you would subscribe to our channel and ring the bell if you want notifications, and click the like button if you like our content. Do remember that in the description we have an evaluation. If you would give us some feedback, let us know what you want to see so we create content that you guys want to watch. So we can go ahead and get started. As you can see, we are not in the extension kitchen. This does not look like any of the kitchens that I've cooked in for you guys. So this is actually my kitchen. Welcome to the whole home tour. This is the third room in my house we've been in. So I hope you guys are enjoying it. That being said, today I'm making this jam for me. So I am using my own tools. We typically don't recommend making stuff for other people in home kitchens, mainly because sanitation reasons, especially for resale. But that's a lot more information than you guys probably needed to know. If you have some questions about that, my contact information is is on our website, which that link is in the description. And if you go to the National Center for Home Food Preservation, they have a lot more guidelines on how to help you do some food preservation, especially now since we're all kind of stuck inside. And it's about to be strawberry season, so what better thing to do than make strawberry jam? So before we get started, I want to talk to you guys about where you can get strawberries. Our ag agent has let me know that our local UPICs in Currituck County have contacted him to let him know that they will open up for people to come. Farm stands are still open. Farmers markets are also open. Just remember, whenever you go, to maintain your social distance. Outside, it's a little easier, just like when you go to the grocery store, but outside it's a little easier to stay away from people. So when you pick your strawberries, whether you get them from a local farmer or the farmer's market, the supermarket, or if you're a lucky person that has a strawberry bed in their backyard, there are a few things that you need to look for. You really want a nice plump berry with some green leaves on top. You want to avoid, I saved one of the nasty ones here. You want to avoid anything that kind of looks like that. Anything that's moldy, or this one is actually kind of squishy too. That's not going to make the best product. So we're taking our time here. This is a process, and we are going to make sure that we make something that's good and will last in the refrigerator. Unlike water bath canning, the other things that we're going to need really are going to be some type of device to hold the jam in, and some pectin. I've got two kinds here. You can kind of see they come in the pouch form or the bottle where you can scoop out the pectin. Do check the dates on pectin, as it does go bad. we are going to need 1 cup of water, a potato masher, a knife to cut the strawberries with, and then you can use a headspace measure, but I'm at home and I don't have my headspace measure, and I didn't want to go traipsing around looking for one. I have a straw that I have marked with a piece of tape to measure my headspace, and we'll talk about why headspace is important a little later. The jars that we're going to use today are actual kind of canning jars. Whatever you pick, you need to just make sure that it is safe for the refrigerator or for the freezer. So it just needs to be like a tempered glass or a rigid plastic. Of course, you can freeze in Ziploc bags, and those are great, but this is a liquid, so it's going to kind of get weird in a Ziploc bag. Another thing to keep in mind, if you have a wide mouth jar or a jar that's straight all the way along, it's going to be easier to get out anything that's frozen. Otherwise, it's going to be a little harder to get it out. And the necks can crack on jars if you don't leave enough headspace, and the neck is smaller than the jar. Those are just a few things to remember. You also want to make sure whatever you use has a lid that will seal, keep out moisture, and protect it from getting off flavors from other things that might come into your refrigerator or freezer. So what we're doing today, and I'm going to go talk through the process a little bit more, all of this has to stay in the freezer or a refrigerator. This is not a shelf-stable product that we're making today. Then you'll need your recipe. So your recipe is linked in the description if you want to follow along. If that recipe does not suit you because it has too much sugar or it's too large, I do not recommend altering any of the ratios. They are specially developed in a lab at the National Center for Home Food Preservation to make sure that whatever product you're doing gels and is safe and won't grow bacteria. So that pH level is right for your product. So just keep that in mind. If there's not something that you want, if this is not the recipe for you, look in the National Center for Home Food Preservation's database. They have tons of recipes, and they probably have something there for you. I also linked another, like a PDF that they developed that's not just strawberries or not just an uncooked berry. So another thing about this recipe that we're doing is you don't have to cook the product. So we're not going to actually cook the strawberries, which I really like in the fact that I could do this with my son. So we were doing this earlier, and it was much easier for him to get on and help me because I wasn't worried about this hot kind of sticky product that we were making and how it can burn him. Because this product isn't going to gel right away. It can take up to 24 hours to gel, and we're not going to get the whole thing, like all the sugar, that hot because we're going to boil the water and the pectin rather than the product. So that's another really cool thing and makes this kind of family friendly. So we better get started because we have a lot of things to do. The very first thing you need to do is sterilize whatever container you're using. So I went ahead and boiled these, and I actually boiled these in this pot with the, and this is has a spaghetti strainer thing. You just want to make sure that you're not getting your jars on the bottom of your pot because the heat transfer from the bottom of the pot to the jar, and you have the potential to break it, shock the jars. So we just want to have a little rack in there, and that's kind of what makes a canning hot water bath different than just a big pot. So we've sanitized those. We've washed the lids in hot soapy water because that's what the manufacturer says. I recommend if you're doing any type of canning that you look at the back of the box. It tells you how to sanitize the jars. If you want and you have a dishwasher with a sanitizing setting, sometimes I typically use that at the office, but those are your options. Okay, so let's get into strawberry cutting. So I found the easiest way to do this is to take the top of the strawberry. We want to cut that off. You can hull it with a straw. I've already put my straw away that I hold stuff with. And I don't have plastic straws, but a stainless steel straw works really well, and it's really fun for kids to do, and you get the centers out. Once you've done that, to make it easier to mash, you're going to want to slice it up or cut it up. So I go ahead and cut them up, and we're going to add them to our already cut strawberries. Just a reminder, when you're doing this, a little at a time is easier than all at once. If you do them all at once, you're going to be mashing for a really long time. So we're going to take our potato masher. A pastry blender works really well too. And we're going to start mashing. And it looks like, oh my gosh, I'm doing nothing at first. But you just keep mashing and rocking your potato masher around. And eventually, they will begin to mash. We don't have time for that. So I have pre-mashed strawberries for us. So the pre-mashed strawberry kind of mush looks like this. So we're working towards 2 cups of pre-mashed strawberries. So 2 cups of mashed strawberries is going to be about 2 pints or 1 quart. However you want to buy them or pick them. So you'll get this nice strawberry mush next. The strawberry mush, then that side, has to be added, has to have sugar added to it. 4 cups of sugar have to go into the strawberry mash. That is this much sugar. And while you're adding that, we're going to go ahead and bring our water up to a boil or get it nice and warm so we can add our pectin to it. So we have added the sugar to this strawberry mash. So we had 2 cups in here before. And the 2 cup measure is way down here. Then we added 4 cups of sugar. You have to mix it. Mix it, mix it, mix it. And I'll show you what that looks like. Let me just show you because it is ridiculous. So we're taking our strawberry mash. Let's add our sugar to it. Whoa, that's a lot of sugar. Okay, but that is why jam is so good, because of all the sugar. And if we didn't have that much sugar, then it's not going to gel, because that is what the ratio of sugar to product or produce or whatever you're going to can here is. That's what the ratio is. You got to get it there. All right, so we have just a very small amount of water in this pot, and while I'm stirring this, I'm doing this too, so that we don't have a whole lot of time in between. But you can see how once you start mixing it up, it forms like, to me, what looks like delicious sugar, delicious strawberry sugar. All right, so we're gonna keep stirring this around. So this has to actually sit for 20 minutes. And as it sits for 20 minutes, you're going to want to stir it periodically. And in my family, we had discussed how much you mash it. So we have a lot of clumps in here. And how much you mash it is definitely going to be whatever your family preference is. So you can see how here, I hope you can see, not drop it in the floor. There we go. How here it's kind of cloudy and the sugar hasn't kind of mixed with the strawberries yet. You can see over here how it's mixed with the strawberries and the cloudiness has kind of gone away. And you're going to stir this periodically as you let it sit. Now that we've got this up to a nice warm temperature, I'm going to add the pectin. So the recipe says that we add 1 pouch of pectin. So I'm going to go ahead and just add a pouch rather than measure out pectin. So we're going to add in this 1 pouch of pectin. We have to bring it to a boil for 1 minute. lot of you guys must be canning because this was the last pectin. That was it. There wasn't any more. It's the last pectin in the store. So we're going to mix the pectin into the water, starting to get a little warm. So the reason I did it this way is because if you've ever cooked, you know that powders do not dissolve in cold water. So I went ahead and got the water a little hot so that the powder would dissolve. We bring this to a boil. That is step number next, because I don't know where we are in the step numbers. All right, we're getting there. So I know you guys can't see down in here, but it's starting to, so it's a white kind of liquid. It's getting warm, but we just want to make sure it gets all good and dissolved and stir it up in there. All right. So again, I want to reiterate, do not alter the recipe. The recipe is what the recipe is. If you want a different recipe, look for a different recipe. So the recipe that I'm using calls for 4 cups of sugar, 2 cups of strawberries or blackberries, 1 cup of water, and 1 thing of pectin, 1 powdered pectin. Once we bring this to a boil, we're going to let it boil for 1 minute. And it is now getting a nice, good boil. And what I want is a nice rolling boil, roaring boil. I don't know, I always say it wrong. And that just means that it's boiling all over the place. It's not just 1 or 2 little bubbles. So we've got a good boil going. We're boiling it up. And what we're doing is we're making the pectin ready to gel. So as we're making this pectin ready to gel, we're going to make sure that we've got this good and stirred because this has got to go in next. We're going to turn the heat off and put this in. So that's our next step. That's why I'm using this really big pot for such a little bit of water, because I was afraid if I add the strawberries to this and I use a small pot, and spatial reasoning has never been my strong suit, we would have a mess on live TV. So to avoid the mess, we have a nice big pot. This is also the pot that I would cook regular jam in. And since this is the time of year when I would typically be doing canning classes, I did want to start us off. Something maybe we could all do, the freezing. And then if you guys keep watching, subscribe, we will shoot out a couple more canning videos. We will do a water bath can for sure, so you guys can get the full effect of that and have something to do with the produce that you have at home. Hopefully in your garden, if you talk to our, or if you've watched any of our other lives, our ag agent has definitely given a lot of good information, and our home horticulture technician, he's also given a lot of good information about how you guys can start your own home gardens and then can your produce. It's awesome. All right. I think I've talked for a minute. So now we're going to turn the heat down. And we're going to, let's move on. This is a hot pot. Already, pectin's gelling. No produce. Add this in. We're adding in our strawberry sugary goodness next. We want to get all that good stuff out of there. Spatulas are good for. And this recipe is going to make between 5 and 6 half pints. And I told you guys half pints are a great use for this recipe because you want to use it if it sits in your refrigerator within a couple of days. And I mean, it can sit in your refrigerator for a while, but we don't want it to sit too long because freezer jams are much more likely to mold, to have mold or yeast growing in them. All right, now it really starts to look like jam, which is very exciting. Let's see if you guys can see it. It's starting to clear up. Of course, there's going to be some foam on top. That's from the boiling. So pectin, as it boils, I mean, it's starting to gel, obviously, because that's what pectin does. The air bubbles are going to get trapped in the pectin. as it's starting to gel, and it's going to create a foam as it comes to the top. If you don't like that foam, or if there's too much for you, then what you want to do is take a paper towel and just get rid of the foam that's on top. It's not great to look at in your jars. It does not hurt anybody. All it is trapped air. And if you mix it, once you get your product in the jars, you can mix it in or scrape it off the top there as well. So those are some options for you if you see some of those bubbles coming to the top. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all. All right. So before we get started with the next step, if there's any questions, you guys can type those in the chat box. Don't forget, if you're watching this as a recording, please contact me if you have some canning problems or canning questions, some freezing questions. Again, we're not having those in-person classes, so I definitely would love to interact with you guys if that's something that you're in, if you want to try this year. All right. So here are our jars. And so the next step in the process is to go ahead and ladle our product into our jars. I love to do this. I don't know who told me this. This has been the best thing in the world. Put your jars on a tray with a towel. The towel keeps the mess away, and it also helps the jar stay still. But if you're using canning jars, so if your jars are hot, you don't want to shock the jars by putting them on a cold countertop, especially if you've got like a stone countertop that can be cold. We're going to take our ladle and very carefully ladle our jars with our product. Now, the product is hot, so I typically would not bring the jar to the product. I wanted to show you guys what most people want to do. But I want to get as close to the jar as I can with my pot without using my hand, because this is hot and it will stick to you and burn you. So there is a canning kit that you can buy with a funnel on it. The funnels are super helpful. I don't have a funnel, so I'm going to just ladle it in a little at a time. All right. I just want to show you guys one jar, and I'll finish ladling this up later. It's not too hot, which makes it perfect for kids. But just be careful, everyone be careful as they're filling up their jars. So remember, we need that 1/2 inch headspace because things are going to expand as they freeze, and we don't want to blow the lid off of this thing. So I'm going to use my handy dandy made up headspace measurer. And I want to take the bottom of the tape, line it up with the top of the jar, and then the bottom of the straw is going to touch the top of my product. And ta-da, I have done it. So you'll also see, or maybe you can't see, I have dripped down the side. So if you drip down the side, you're not going to be able to put your lid on. So we just recommend a paper towel, wipe the edge. We're going to go ahead and put the jar lids on, and then I just have a few more things I wanted to tell you before we sign off. So we're going to put our 2-piece jar lids on, fingertip tight, and these guys actually have to sit out on the counter for 24 hours before they go in the refrigerator or the freezer, because we want them to gel, and it can take up to 24 hours for them to gel. And if you look at my product here, it hasn't quite gelled. You can see how it's dripping off the spoon in drips rather than sheets. And it will gel as it cools. It will set up and begin to take the jam shape rather than this syrup. All right, so that is all I have for live today. Don't forget, subscribe, hit the like button if you like our content. Our links are in the description for the recipe, for the evaluation, and also our website, which has my contact information. If there's anything that you want to learn about canning or you have any questions, you can always contact me, Olivia Patchell. My email address is there, and that'd be the best way to get in contact with me. I don't want you to forget that you need to tune into tomorrow's live with Cameron Lowe on home office management. That's at 11:30. Coming around. So far away from the computer. We have something in the chat box. Oh, everybody says my jam looks yummy. Well, I have a lot now, so hopefully you guys can maybe share at a social distance. But thank you guys so much for watching today, and I hope you guys tune in tomorrow, and don't forget to subscribe and like us. Thanks, guys.